Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Rawlins. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and students on behalf of Lake Weangan Public School, New South Wales. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Please stand. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private John Eric Gabrielson. John Gabrielson, known as Eric, was born on the 19th of March 1897, the third son of Thomas and Annie Gabrielson. His father had been born in Norway and had come to Australia in 1887 after more than a decade at sea. Settling in Adelaide, he joined the fire brigade and 5 years later married Annie. Eric was born at the Metropolitan Fire Station in Adelaide. But shortly after his arrival, his father took a position as a prison guard at Yatala Prison. Eric grew up on the Stockdale Reserve, attended Northfield and Nailsworth public schools, and then North Adelaide and Adelaide High Schools. In 1912, Eric went to Little River between Geelong and Melbourne, where he lived with a widow and her children. Here he was treated as one of the family and was working as a labourer. Eric Gabrielson enlisted in the Australian Imperial Forces in July 1915, putting up his age from 18 to 21 and a half in order to do so. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 8th Battalion in September 1915. Gabrielson was first sent to Egypt, but fell sick not long after his arrival, and probably did not spend any time on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Following another period in hospital in February 1916, he continued training, and in April 1916 was sent to France to fight on the Western Front. In August 1916, Private Gabrielson transferred to the 1st Australian Machine Gun Company and attended a specialist machine gun school. He remained with his company through the bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917, falling sick as the weather started to warm up in May 1917. For the next several months, he spent little time with his unit, but was sick a number of times and was granted a period of leave to England. He returned to the 1st Machine Gun Company in late August 1917. On the 26th of September 1917, the 1st Machine Gun Company acted in support of an Australian infantry attack on Polygon Wood in Belgium. They advanced close to the front line and got their guns into position by 1 a.m. But between 2 and 6:30 a.m, they came under fire, under heavy German artillery fire, which caused a number of casualties. One of those casualties was Private Gabrielson. He was taken from the battlefield with a penetrating wound to his back caused by a shell fragment. After more than 2 weeks' treatment at a Canadian clearing station and later at the 12th Canadian Hospital, he died of his wounds and was buried in the nearby St. Sever Cemetery. Eric Gabrielson was 20 years of age. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, amongst almost the 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today before the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Eric Gabrielson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemned. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and we wish you all a very good evening.